Clark is from the Libertarian Party UK, Hugo Wills is the candidate for the Communist League, and Sir Oinkalot is for the Monster Raving Loony Party.
Right, well, GBNews political correspondent Olivia Utley joins us now. Olivia, so Nigel says, yes, people did initially think he's a one-man band, but now he's got 5 troopers or 4 troopers around him that are going to be at the top table.
Yes, I mean, a few things jumped out at me at that press conference. One of them, really interesting decision to have Richard Tice as Deputy Prime Minister and also in this beefed-up job as Head of Business, Strategy and Energy, I think it is. And then you've separately got Robert Jenrick as the Shadow Chancellor. Now, from Richard Tice's speech, which came first, it sounded very much as though he thought he was the Shadow Chancellor. He talked about his history in the private sector. He talked about the importance of having someone who understands the economy, etc., etc. And the very fact that he went first, straight after Nigel Farage, suggested that Farage has put him in a really top position. Normally, though, of course, the Chancellor is number 2 to the Prime Minister. And I'm really fascinated in the personalities of these two men and how these particular jobs are going to work with them. Richard Tice ran Reform UK before Nigel Farage decided that he was going to step in. Robert Jenrick obviously went against Kemi Badenoch in that leadership challenge and was furious when he wasn't made her Shadow Chancellor. Both of them, I think it's fair to say, have quite big egos, and they've been put into jobs which are very, very similar. There is going to be a lot of crossover there. There have been fallouts before, which was mentioned a few times in that press conference, within the Reform UK stable, and I wonder if there's going to be another one between these two men, both of whom, you know, have a good reason to think that they should be in pole position in the party. I was interested too in the fact that Nigel Farage has chosen to appoint not 1 but 2 former senior Tories, former members of the cabinet. Obviously, he's in a bit of a bind here, because if he doesn't have anyone from the last Conservative government, if he just has brand new MPs, people who have no history in politics, then he'll be accused of not having enough experience on his shadow front bench. On the other hand, if half of your appointments to the great offices of state are people who served in the previous Conservative government, you very much run the risk of people saying, hang on a moment, we rejected the Conservatives just 18 months ago, very, very roundly in that general election. Why would we want to have them up again? And you can see a flavour of that from some of the newspapers and broadcasters standing in that press conference today. And really fascinating stuff. I was interested too in the fact that Nigel Farage chose not to appoint, today at least, a Shadow Foreign Secretary or Shadow Defence Secretary. In the current global, you know, geopolitical climate, that does seem like a bit of an odd decision. There was a rumour that Nadhim Zahawi was going to take over that job. That wasn't announced today, and when Nigel Farage was asked whether he's considering a 5th big office of state, he said he hasn't yet made up his mind. Was Nadhim Zahawi in the running for that job and then there was some sort of problem over it? We're not quite sure yet. But to me, I think that is a little bit of a weakness. Reform UK are trying to pitch themselves as the opposition party. That's what Nigel Farage kept saying. The opposition to this Labour government. Without a senior spokesman on defence or foreign affairs, can they really be considered serious opposition?
If they won, so just say Reform UK won, would the people who he's got in his cabinet, they would have to be MPs, though, wouldn't they?
Well, not necessarily. What Nigel Farage could do is appoint some of these people to the House of Lords. Remember when David Cameron was the Foreign Secretary under Rishi Sunak for a while. So that's something he could do. It doesn't work that well because it's quite hard to scrutinise what people are doing if they're not able to answer questions in the House of Commons. If you're sitting there in the gallery of the House of Commons and you normally get to watch the opposition stand up and make a speech against, you know, or ask questions of the minister. What happened when David Cameron held that role, not as a sitting MP, was his deputy sat in for him in the House of Commons. Nigel Farage could do that. Of course, there is going to be a general election before Reform UK 1. I imagine that people like Zia Youssef would be given a safe seat, and I think there will probably, if things go as Nigel Farage hopes, be quite a few reform-safe seats. So I imagine that someone like Zia Youssef would have a seat by the next election. But Nigel Farage has made it clear that he wouldn't necessarily appoint a whole cabinet full of MPs. He wants people directly from the private sector.
This, of course, is a very interesting element of how Farage is trying to sort of expand his team. But as you touched on there, this sort of dual economic brief between Tice and Jenrick could be a source of friction. Sort of looking back in the history of this country, Harold Wilson created a sort of parallel economic department to the Treasury, which he called the Department of Economic Affairs. It was almost given as a consolation prize to his deputy leader, George Brown, who didn't get a great office of state. I'm starting to see a lot of parallels between the deputy leader of a party being given a sort of parallel Treasury-adjacent department. But then, of course, the Department of Economic Affairs in the 60s was a failure. I mean, the Treasury clawed back all of its power. George Brown was moved on. It closed down after 4 years.
Well, exactly. And I think the role of Deputy Prime Minister is often given as a bit of a sop to someone who hasn't been given the role that they want. I think it does feel quite likely that there will be some tension between Richard Tice and Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick obviously has much more experience in politics, but Richard Tice has a lot of experience in business. And as I say, from the speech that he made, it sounded as though he thinks that he is the Shadow Chancellor. And if Reform UK is, talking about growth, for example, who's going to do it? Will it be Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Chancellor, or will it be Richard Tice? Personally, as a journalist, I wouldn't know whose team to go to on questions about business, about growth, about tax cutting. Is it Robert Jenrick's team, or would it be Richard Tice's team? So I think that is a possible source of tension between the two of them and in Reform more widely.
All right, Olivia Utley, thank you very much. Now, joining us now is Conservative councillor Tom Jones. Tom, your leader referred to the front bench as a tribute act, the Reform UK front bench as a tribute act. What are your thoughts on what's just been announced by Nigel Farage?
Well, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. I mean, obviously, as Liv has just been talking about, the interaction between Robert Jenrick and Richard Tice is going to be really interesting. One of the things that wasn't mentioned is that Tice also has housing. So that looks like a department that's going to be really focused on delivering growth. Obviously, Zai Yousaf as Shadow Home Secretary, there are natural advantages to having an ethnic minority as Home Secretary when you're looking to reduce migration, as we've seen from the Tories. As we've seen from the Tories, it often isn't quite enough. Braverman at Skills and Education, she's also been given equalities. Interestingly, one of the stories that hasn't been touched on is that on day one of any Reform government, she has promised to get rid of the Equalities Department, scrap the position of Equalities Minister, and repeal the Equality Act. I also think what's quite interesting here the things that have been missed. There were no appointments for Sarah Pochin, for Andrew Rosendale. Danny Kruger continues in his role preparing reform for government. Lee Anderson continues in his position as Chief Whip, but no foreign or defence secretaries, which I think is an interesting decision for reform.
This is a very, very interesting development because up until now, Nigel Farage has been the be-all and end-all of policy and reform to a greater or lesser extent. And yet, during that question and answer session, he was asked on a question of policy. He was asked about tax breaks to women who have more than one child. At which point he turned to Jenrick to say that Robert Jenrick will decide on this policy. I mean, has Nigel Farage now got a get-out-of-jail-free card? In any difficult interview question, he can sort of say the policy that he would like to have, but then always revert to this issue that, actually, we're a very serious party now. Robert Jenrick will decide the policy. Only if Robert Jenrick says this is funded will it actually go ahead.
Yes, I think absolutely he has. He's obviously reformed policy development is at a nascent stage. That's what part of this cabinet announcement is to move them to actually a proper government in waiting with policies ready to go. And fundamentally, a lot of reforms policy over the last couple of years has been decided quite on the hoof. Usually by Nigel Farage, kind of over the course of 5 or 10 minutes. This is obviously a different, more serious way to develop policy. Now, Nigel Farage has been very good at that because he has a very instinctive understanding of his target electorate. But as the party grows in scope and looks more and more like a government in waiting, it simply can't rely on one person anymore, particularly for the detail.
Well, I think Nigel also made a point that he can't win, can he, really? Because when he does get these people in, because obviously they're quite useful and they've got knowledge of how government actually works, as Suella Braverman, for example, you know, people say, oh, well, you've got your Tories 2.0. But on the flip side, they are saying, oh, well, you know, you need experienced people. Do you think that, in your view, there are more Tories that are about to cross the floor and join Reform UK?
I think there probably almost certainly are. Obviously, there is the deadline for 7th of May for any defections. I have heard talk that Conservative prospective parliamentary candidates are asking if that deadline applies to them. I think one of the interesting things is the possibility that they have not selected a defence secretary as a particularly juicy bauble for any potential big name defectors that are coming across. That's more than possible. The same for foreign secretary. Fundamentally, I don't think they had to name anybody for those two positions today. As I said, they're particularly juicy baubles, but also with the talent that Reform has at the minute, anybody they name as Foreign Secretary is probably not likely to be Foreign Secretary in the next Reform government, so why bother naming somebody in the first place? But I think almost certainly we have not seen the end of defections, and Farage in his speech also mentioned potential Labour defections. Now that's been something he's mentioned quite often. There was supposed to be an announcement, I think, last month. Nothing came of that. He's now mentioning multiple Labour people. That's probably likely to be a few councillors. But it might be the odd MP in the red wall who's set to lose their seat too.
OK, well, Tom Jones, Deputy Editor of The Critic magazine, thanks indeed for joining us live from our Westminster studio.
Well, still with us is Olivia Utley. Olivia, so potential defections. Nigel Farage did say that there'll be potentially some people from the Labour side of things.
Yes, it'll be really interesting. We've all been waiting for this for a long time now. He's been claiming that he's in conversation with various figures in Labour for a while. Yet to see anything. I don't know if he said that any Conservatives who wanted to defect would have to defect before those May the 7th elections, because otherwise he would expect a storm of them to come round afterwards. I don't know if the same thing holds true for Labour. They're clearly desperate to get their hands on some sort of Labour MP. I wonder if something is in the balance or whether they're just hyping this up.
Can we just stop it with the pretence that Reform is some sort of centrist party? I mean, they've gone on for years and years about how the Conservative Party isn't conservative enough, and they'll only accept the most conservative Conservatives to come across. Why should they take a socialist? I mean, come on. Let's enter the real world here for a second and just realise Reform is a right-wing party. There's nothing wrong with being a right-wing party. No one has to pretend that they're not a right-wing party. You don't have to take a blooming socialist on board to prove that you're credible.
Well, it's interesting, Tom, isn't it? Because obviously on something like immigration and everything that Sorella Braverman was saying about education and equalities, Reform is definitely a right-wing party. On the economy, well, perhaps Robert Jenrick will put a bit more meat on the bones of Reform's economic strategy, which until now has been a little bit thin on the ground, shall we say. But on the economy, you know, they're not a bunch of Thatcherites. They're not flagrant free marketeers. There is a little bit of socialism in Reformist politics. And if they're trying to appeal to that red wall, blue wall, whatever you call it, those seats in the north of England, some former mining seats that voted for Brexit at the last election, quite a lot of those people, for very understandable reasons, look a bit sort of protectionist in their politics. They want, you know, British jobs for British workers, etc. They're not globalists. They're not the kind of liberal economics which Thatcherites would lean towards. So it'll be really interesting to see what Robert Jenrick makes of this, but I can see why they might want a Labour MP.
I can see why as well. They want to nationalise things as well, so they have some similar ideologies that I think would work quite well.
Well, shall we turn to our political editor, Christopher Hope, now, who is in the room of that announcement, and I believe has one of the Reform Party's top team with him. Chris.
That's right, Tom, and hello, Nana. Welcome to the venue of this announcement of some of those new frontbench roles for Reform UK. And one of those people getting the job is Sorella Braverman, the party's new education and skills spokesman. Sorella Braverman, thank you for joining us on GBNews. Is this what you wanted when you came across?
Do you know what, actually, I've been motivated to get into politics because of education. As I said in my comments, education really shapes the destiny of our country, and it was the original factor that drove me to get get into politics. As I said, I helped set up one of the first free schools. And so, yes, I'm really, really honoured to have a chance now to speak about it. I've been very much occupied with home affairs, policing, borders for many years, legal issues, but actually my real passion in politics is education. And
you're happy? You used to be Robert Jenrick's boss. Now he's got the senior role in this new spokesman team. Is this what you were promised? Have you got thwarted ambitions, Fella Braveman?
Oh, gosh. God, that's the first time I've thought about it like that, Chris. No, listen, contrary to what is very typical in the Conservative Party, I would say, which is a lot of jostling, a lot of power plays, I'm very, very honoured to have this role. I'm really chuffed for Richard, Zia and Robert with the briefs that they've been handed. I feel part of a great team, and I know that everybody, actually all the MPs, have huge amounts of expertise and value to add, and I've been really enjoying. I've only been in a few weeks. I'm still a new girl, but it's a great team, and I'm blown away by the talent in the parliamentary party.
8 MPs is the party, of course. Let's not forget that. Are you importing any dramas from the Tories in the old days? Nigel Farage just says then he won't put up with any of it. If you do that, you're out.
He's absolutely right. Listen, one of the big reasons I left the Conservative Party is because it became so toxic. It became unhealthy, and I was largely driven out by my own colleagues. I've dealt with abuse and attacks from my own party colleagues for years, very often not reacting. And I'm very pleased now to be part of a very productive and mission-led team, which is focused ultimately on serving the British people.
The Financial Times said that all of the 4 roles, you all went to private school. You're all a bit too posh to connect with ordinary British people. Is that what you think?
No, I wouldn't call myself posh, but I went to both a state school and a private school in the 80s and the 90s. It cost a fraction of what it does today, I would say. And I'd just say this about my parents. They came to this country with nothing. They're working class people. They didn't in themselves even go to university until they were in their 40s as mature students at the local polytechnic. And they sacrificed everything to give me a good education. They went without holidays. They drove a battered car. My parents, I had second-hand clothes, all these kinds of things. We were not posh people. We were not wealthy people. My parents sacrificed because they wanted to invest in my education. And as I said, I wouldn't be on that stage today were it not for the great sacrifice that they made and the amazing education that I benefited from.
What are your plans now? You're this spokesman for education and skills, and there's a further element to the job too, which we mentioned in your speech there. What's your plans now you're in this role?
Yes, it's education, skills and equalities. I think on skills we've got a big task. As I said, there are 700,000 graduates who are currently unemployed. I think about 400,000 of those are on universal credit. On average, every graduate comes out saddled with about £50,000 worth of debt. So there's something going fundamentally wrong in our higher education sector. There are too many substandard courses being delivered by substandard institutions, and we need to bring an end to that. Equally, we have shortages in our trades, in construction, in nursing. We're not getting enough of our own young people to take up these very valuable roles. So we need a rebalancing of our further education and our higher education sector. We need, as I said, we need to bring in a Nigel Farage 50% of young people going into the trades. These are noble professions which will be part of the rebuilding of our country.
And that work starts now for you. I've got to ask you briefly about this ruling yesterday in the courts. Reform UK has always attacked rule by courts. They've attacked courts forcing governments into positions they don't want to be in. That's exactly what happened yesterday, isn't it?
No, I don't think. I think this is about standing up for democracy, because millions of people were denied their vote unlawfully. There's exceptional circumstances like the pandemic. Everyone can understand that. That's provided for in the law. But in some circumstances, the Labour government postponed some of these local elections, not for 1 year, but for 2 years. And there's really no exceptional circumstances to justify such a delay. Flagrant breach of the law. And when the government breaks the law, it's only right that citizens stand up against it. And that's what Reform did. Reform and Nigel Farage took the lead, bringing this legal action, despite the naysayers, and force the government into a humiliating U-turn, but absolutely essential because now millions of people will be re-enfranchised.
And just finally, do you worry you're too Tory heavy? We yet to see the long-promised Labour defectors we've heard for weeks now from Nigel Farage. They haven't happened yet. Are you not, as the Tories are saying, you're a retread of the old party?
No, listen, Reform UK is now the right-wing party in British politics. It has replaced the Conservative Party, and if anyone has any doubts about that, they just need to look at the results on May the 8th to see that the Tory party or the Conservative Party will cease to be a national party after that date. They have become an irrelevance to British politics. Reform UK is speaking for, at last, the millions of patriotic Brits who want strong borders, who want a prosperous economy, who want common sense in their schools and want opportunity for their young people. I don't particularly think actually that's right or left wing. I think that's actually the national interest, and so this is the party not just of the right but actually the party that will restore some sanity into and fix Britain.
And just finally, will you bring more across from your old party? There are only a very small number, Nigel Farage says, in the Tory party who he thinks are appropriate for reform.
Listen, I know from a few weeks ago that morale is very low in the Conservative Parliamentary Party, and there are other Conservatives, particularly on the right of the party, who are very worried about the state of British politics, and they are thinking about it. So, you know, I can't speak for them. I can't speak for Nigel. Ultimately, it's his decision, and I will support the decision.
Are you helping with this?
I talk to colleagues in the Conservative Party. That's what I'll say.
Suella Braverman, thank you for joining us there. Suella Braverman, of course, who Reform UK's new education skills and equality spokesman.
Thank you very much, Christopher. Right, well, if you've just joined us 46 minutes after midday, and a group of Chagos Islanders have landed on the island to establish a permanent settlement, more than 50 years after the population was evicted from the British colony.
Yes, it was described, actually, by Nigel Farage in that press conference there, but it's all been led by the self-declared First Minister, Mislay Mandarin. The four-strong party defied a British exclusion zone and says hundreds more Chagosians will follow them, declaring, "We are here to stay."
Well, we're joined now by the former MP Adam Holloway and First Minister of Chagos, Mislay Mandarin. Wow. So you're on the island. So are you effectively on the islands illegally, is the question?
This is British territory, and our whole British passport. How this can be illegally? The only thing illegal here is Starmer handing British territory to a country like Mauritius, which is not British.
Now, this is a fairly extraordinary thing that's taken place here. Just describe where you are, because this isn't the island that hosts the base. This isn't Diego Garcia. This is another island that used to be inhabited by Chagosians, but had to be moved when the base was created.
Yes, but that was unnecessary because where we are now on Peros Banos, and the base is like 2 days boat to get to that base. So here, we are perfectly safe. And I came here, Adam helped me a lot doing this plan. We are here to stay.
Wow.
Look, the reality is, in the 1960s, the British government wanted to stop having to pay for the occasional food ship to come here. The excuse used was that there was a new base. It's 120 miles away. So I've got a guy over there I'm looking at who, in fact, let's come this way. Michelle, who's in the background there, he was 14 years old when he was basically, they were rounded up, they were put on ships, some of them in manacles, their dogs were gassed, and they were sent to live in poverty in Mauritius, where they were basically called unspeakable names and told they weren't worth educating. Finally, a lot of them came to England when the British government finally gave them passports. And now the British government, having illegally, it was a crime against humanity as it happens, now we're trying to turn this place over to Mauritius without asking him, the democratically elected person. It's quite extraordinary. And what we're hoping to do by having this, a permanent settlement here, what we're hoping to do is we have successfully changed the facts on the ground. Now I hope the law and good sense will catch up with it. What do you think, Mr.
Yes, of course. The excuse was the island, there's nobody on the island. Now, we got people on there, we got devotion on there. My dad was born in this place right now and got exiled, and he's back. a dear customer to remove my dad again, that will be a crime against humanity again and again.
And it really is. It really was a crime against humanity. To move a settled native population from a place is a crime against humanity. And what we're doing now is we're basically about to do the same thing, albeit by so-called human rights. Look, the human rights that matter here are the rights of these people who've lived in exile for 60 years. It's morally indefensible. From a geostrategic point of view, you know, risking that base to China is a shocker. And what on earth are we doing, spending, what, 48 billion pounds of your viewers' money, which should be spent on defence, on this thing? I mean, you agree with that, do you?
Of course. I was a bus driver. I left everything for my homeland. I came here. If I was a bus driver, I will pay my taxes to Mauritius. Now I'm here. We are saving 35 billion of your viewers' British tax money, right? By me being here and claiming my island as British because I'm British.
Yeah, thank you very much, Isley Mandarin, and also former MP Adam Holloway. You'd think they could use the ECHR, wouldn't you? Everyone else seems to be using it, aren't they?
But what a fascinating story. I'm so interested to keep up with the progress of the development of that settlement. If Misley really is there to stay, this puts a massive spanner in the works of Keir Starmer's plan.
Right, now, a very happy Shrove Tuesday, also known as Pancake Day.
Yes, joining us is GBNews reporter Anna Riley, who's in Scarborough for the celebrations. Anna, take it away.
Good afternoon, Tom and Nana, and happy Pancake Day. It's certainly been celebrated in style here in Scarborough. Shrove Tuesday was a national holiday back in the 19th century here, where the pancake bell was rung at midday, as it was today, and that was a signal to the fishermen's wives to start putting the pancakes on. And that's a tradition that's been maintained today, but also with fancy dress as well. So after the pancake bell was rung, businesses from across Scarborough have dressed up in fancy dress, and they've done an obstacle course, flipping a pancake as they go along to try and get the prize of a golden pancake. And then later this afternoon, people will be skipping here on the beach in Scarborough to celebrate. I spoke to Councillor Janet Jefferson earlier about today, and this is what she told us.
It's a wonderful tradition. It goes back to 1800s, when the apprentices and servants used to get half a day off for the day before Lent, and they used to play football and they used to skip on the beach. And then in about circa 1903, we started with ringing the bell, and everybody got involved in skipping. The bell was there to let the housewives know to get the pancakes ready, using up the flour and the eggs for Lent. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful event, and it's expanded from there. And this year, of course, is half term, so all the North Yorkshire schools are off. But normally they have the half a day off. Years ago, the banks and shops used to close. So it's just one of those events that carries on and carries on.
Oh, cracky, that was sudden, wasn't it? What happened to Anna Riley? Has she gone?
Well, big thanks to Anna for bringing us that. It's so interesting to hear the traditions of Pancake Day right across the country.
Let's see if she's there, though. Anna Riley, carry on. Sorry, we just lost you for a moment.
Yes, certainly to see that British tradition still going, and the real fun that people are having as well. They're not just flipping pancakes, but they're jumping over obstacles, riding foam horses as well, and getting the crowds involved, seeing the children out as well, as it's half term, getting involved. A fantastic day, and we'll be here throughout the afternoon as well, catching some people skipping and eating pancakes as well.
Excellent.
Anna Riley, thank you very much. Have you had your pancakes today?
I have not yet had pancakes today. Yeah. Hint, hint, producers.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work, actually. I don't think they're going to be bringing us anything at all.
No,
but
might have to after the show.
But I do like the idea that we should follow Misley Mandarin in the Chagos and find out more, because that would be a great holiday destination as well, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it?
Because we'd be able to go there as British citizens.
They could make so much money. They could support themselves. We don't need to spend any British taxpayers' money on this at all. They
Build
could have
a hotel on that
vibrant
island.
Tourist industry.
Right, let's get some weather.
A little bit.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. So dry with sunny spells for much of the UK, but it will still be feeling quite cool in the breeze, and that rain will be returning later on this evening. So this frontal system arriving tonight, but we do have this ridge of high pressure building across much of the UK through today, giving fine and settled conditions. Best of the sunshine will be across the north and parts of northern Scotland and northeastern UK, but it will be feeling a touch cool in that breeze, particularly down that northeastern coast. Elsewhere, fairly dry and plenty of sunny spells, but that sunshine will be turning a touch hazier and milkier the further southwest that you go. Temperatures 4 to 5 degrees and feeling cool in that breeze, and a touch milder the further south that we go, and particularly mild across the far southwest. That rain will start to push in later on, but ahead of that we have some dry and clear weather across most of Scotland, and Shetland and Orkney seeing some sleet and snow showers that could turn a bit more persistent later on, but much of Scotland staying dry and clear overnight. Winds picking up across Northern Ireland, but again, it'll be largely dry for most of the start of the evening. Again, most places staying dry, a touch cool, but Devon and Cornwall will already start to see that rain pushing in by the time we head into Tuesday evening. Now that rain will continue to spread northeastwards, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland as we head into the early hours of the morning, and that could be a touch of sleet and snow mixed into there over the high ground of Northern Ireland and perhaps parts of Wales, but elsewhere largely falling as rain as we head in towards Wednesday morning. Cool again across the northeastern half of the country and a touch milder across the far southwest. As we head through Wednesday then, so that rain continues to move northeast, becoming a bit more persistent over parts of Northern Ireland and the southwest of Cornwall and pushing into Wales and perhaps London later on the afternoon. It could turn a touch snowy as we head later on through the evening, so do keep an eye on those warnings where you are. That's all for now, thanks.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Make sure you don't miss the chance to grab an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, or even Sri Lanka. There's just 2 weeks left to enter. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
Well, one young man who can tell us all about the benefits of apprenticeships is the entrepreneur Adam Lamali, who joins us in the studio now. Adam, thanks so much for coming in. I'm really grateful for your time. What do you make about this new move that's coming on? And tell us a bit about your story as well with apprenticeships.
So with my story in apprenticeships, I started off as an apprentice. I was self-employed while being an apprentice at the same time. And it was a springboard for me to have a lot of ownership with the work that I do from the age of 18, just working very hard, long hours, to then today I now run 2 companies and I'm employed at the same time, both of which have been quite successful. And with the new apprenticeships that come into play, I think it's a very valuable move. Apprenticeships for me has been something that's allowed me to work very early on.
I have to say, Adam, I'm very, very jealous of you. I'm one of those people who was on the Plan 2 student loan system. So the amount I'm paying back in interest on my student loan is astonishing. Yeah. You don't have a student loan at all. From your perspective, to be honest, I think from my perspective, university for lots of people is becoming a bit of a waste of money. What do you make of that idea?
University being a waste of money, I believe that university comes with a lot of value. I've met university students that have become very successful. I do see university and the loans and the interest on those loans being quite a lot, being a lot, essentially, and a lot of people not being able to feel as though they'll never be able to pay off their student loan.
Sam, when you were at school, because a lot of people, they just sort of sleepwalk into that university path, don't they? How did you break from that path? What was the option given to you? How were you inspired to take the apprenticeship route instead?
Yeah, so with taking the apprenticeship route, I was very curious. I was curious about what other people were doing in terms of careers and businesses, and I was able to find an apprenticeship that served me in terms of learning a lot about businesses. I felt like within my apprenticeship, there wasn't a day where I wasn't looking at a set of financial statements, learning about a new company.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 17th of February. I'm Nana Akua.
And I'm Tom Harwood. Now,
time has come to broaden the party, to put in place people in shadow positions, and that process begins today.
Nigel Farage unveils his top team.
Richard Tice is confirmed as Deputy Leader, Zia Youssef as Reform's Home Secretary, Suella Braverman on education and skills. Robert Jenrick will take aim at the economy as Reform's Chancellor.
A huge step forward for Reform UK, no longer a one-man band. Nigel Farage appoints his top team and he says...
Elsewhere, local elections back on in May after a surprise U-turn from ministers. Although U-turns aren't really that surprising anymore. Well, the electoral teams say they're now scrambling to make up for lost time.
Well, Cheltenham Borough Council were the only Liberal Democrat-run council to opt to postpone the elections this year. Now they're back on. We've been getting reaction from locals here.
Unemployment climbs to a 5-year high as businesses warn hiring has become too expensive.
A phone is stolen in London every few minutes. Well, now the Metropolitan Police is fighting back with drones, e-bikes and facial recognition.
Experimental singer-songwriter Look Mum No Computer will represent the UK at the Eurovision Song Contest in Vienna this year. Will it be another nil point? Do you think we actually want to win Eurovision with some of the things that we've put forward? Because you have to pay for it to be done in your place. So I think that could be one of the reasons. I mean, we've had some shockers. You can't blame Brexit or the EU or political motivations.
No.
Because, was it Sam Ryder?
Sam Ryder, the one year that he was.
And he came second only because of the war in Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a
that was a legitimate British win.
Exactly, because the song was good. But this, I mean, I haven't heard the song, but I'm concerned already.
I mean, it doesn't fill me with the greatest sense of optimism, I have to say. I mean, maybe electronic music is the gap in the market that we haven't explored yet. But I have to say that we have had some absolute shockers. Do you remember Flying the Flag?
Oh, that one. Oh my God, that was so bad when they were on the plane.
Or something they were called, weren't they?
I was thinking of that one. Yes. It was the worst ever that I've ever seen on Eurovision, I have to say.
So bad.
And they were out of tune. They blamed the sound equipment or something in their ear. But everybody else managed to sing in tune.
But it's like they looked at sort of what the British stereotype of Euro trash pop is and decided, well, this is the way we'll get the Europeans to like us. We'll do some Euro trash pop of our own. No, that's not how you win. You win with a guy like Sam Ryder. Anyway, lots of...
No, what I was going to say, though, yes, absolutely, because it's not like we can't produce incredible musicians. The Rolling Stones, you know, New Order, not the Eagles, what are the other ones? The
Beatles?
No, Sheffield. They'll come back to me.
Well, it's looking at so many huge artists around the world.
Beatles, yeah,
look at Adele or Harry Styles or Oasis or, like, all of the massive bands. I mean, I reckon per capita there is not a single country in the world that has a greater musical reach than Britain.
Yeah.
And yet we send this nonsense off to Eurovision. Disaster.
I just don't get it. I don't know why we do it, because we could win if we really wanted to, but that's why I come back to where I started. We don't want to win, do we?
It's a bit like Ireland. They always put forward a dud because they can't afford the blooming contest. Well, given the economy in Britain right now, maybe this is a deliberate thing. We don't want to win. We can't afford it.
Well, have you heard the song?
I haven't heard the songs, to be fair. No. So maybe it's brilliant. Maybe it's brilliant.
I hope so.
I hope that I could be disproven here. Also, we should be saying that the Reform Party has announced what they're calling their shadow cabinet. All the analysis right here on GB News after your very latest news headlines with Sam.
Leader. Former Tory Minister Robert Jenrick becomes the party's economic spokesperson, blaming what he's called decades of mismanagement for Britain's economic problems. Businessman Zia Youssef, who isn't an MP, takes the affairs role, focusing heavily on immigration, and Suella Braverman will lead on education, on skills and equality.
I'm very pleased now to be part of a very productive and mission-led team, which is focused ultimately on serving the British people.
In other news this lunchtime, councils are facing what organisers are calling a race against time to prepare for local elections after the government reversed its decision to delay dozens of votes. Elections will now go ahead in around 30 council areas on the 7th of May after ministers abandoned plans to propose them following legal advice. The body representing election administrators says staff have lost months of planning time and now face an uphill struggle to get everything ready. The government says £63 million will be made available to help councils manage the changes, but critics say the last-minute U-turn has created confusion and pressure on local authorities. Well, Andrew Griffiths says the situation shows a lack of planning at the heart of government.
Rather than focus on jobs, rather than focus on defence, rather than focus on fixing our healthcare system, have decided to inflict this ridiculous local government reorganisation on the country. It's properly mad. And on a day that we've got the highest unemployment for 5 years, young people finding it incredibly hard to get a job, they shouldn't just shelve their cancellation. They should shelve the whole of their local government reorganisation and get on with the real job.
More than 50 years after being forced from their homes, a group of Chagos Islanders say they've begun a permanent return. 4 people landed on the remote archipelago, defying a British exclusion zone, and say that hundreds more could follow. They've been led by Misley Mandarin, who says many islanders want the chance to return before it's too late. The Chagosians were removed by British authorities in the late 1960s and 70s and resettled mainly in Mauritius. The group says they now plan to stay. The UK considers handing sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius. Well, the former MP Adam Holloway, helped the Chagosians raise new funds for that settlement and says the government's deal to surrender the islands was a completely crazy idea.
We're trying to turn this place over to Mauritius without asking him, the democratically elected person. It's quite extraordinary. And what we're hoping to do by having this, a permanent settlement here, what we're hoping to do is we have successfully changed the facts on the ground. Now I hope the law and good sense will catch up with.
Back here at home, the UK's unemployment rate has climbed to a near 5-year high, rising to 5.2% in the final 3 months of 2025. The Office for National Statistics says the increase reflects weak hiring and more people actively looking for work, with the rate edging up from 5.1% the previous quarter, higher than economists had expected. Wage growth also slowed, with regular pay rising 4.2% annually, while redundancies have been trending upwards. High-stakes peace talks are underway in Geneva as the US, Ukraine and Russia sit down for a third round of negotiations aimed at ending the war. The talks come as Kyiv's facing growing pressure from Washington to agree a deal, with Donald Trump warning Ukraine had better come to the table fast, he says. But Ukraine says Russia is showing little sign of peace, accusing Moscow of launching more than 400 drones and missiles overnight, targeting energy and civilian infrastructure. Representatives from all 3 countries are meeting after 2 previous rounds of talks failed to make progress. And tributes are pouring in for US civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who has died at the age of 84. His family say he passed away peacefully this morning, surrounded by loved ones. Jackson was a towering figure in the fight for racial equality, working alongside Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement. He also made history with 2 runs for the Democratic presidential nomination in 1980s. His family says his lifelong commitment to justice helped shape a global movement for freedom and dignity. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Now those over to Tom and Nana.
Good afternoon, Britain. Now, Nigel Farage has unveiled Reform UK's new top team, declaring that the party is the voice of opposition to this government.
Yes, Richard Tice has been confirmed as Reform's deputy leader and the head of a new shadow department of business and trade, as well as energy bundled into that. Robert Jenrick has been announced as the quote-unquote shadow chancellor of the party. Zia Youssef will be the Home Affairs spokesman, and Suella Braverman will be in charge of new education, skills and equalities in one brief, although she says that one of her first things to do would be abolish her own job as equality spokeswoman.
Yeah, well, let's cross live now to GBNews' political editor, Christopher Hope, who's going to tell us a little bit more about that. Christopher.
That's right. So a big step forward here for Reform UK. Just 8 MPs in the House of Commons. One leader, we know who he is, Nigel Farage, and now other people moving to the fore. And I think we heard Nigel Farage say there in that hour-long press conference, as you unveil those jobs, you'll be seeing a bit less of me and a bit more of them, starting with Robert Jenrick in a speech in the City tomorrow. He's the new Treasury spokesman, Shadow Chancellor, as he would describe it. Zia Youssef is the new Home Affairs spokesman, Shadow Home Secretary. Richard Tice gets a new super ministry, business, trade and energy, likened to what the Germans did after the Second World War to rebuild their industrial heritage and rebuild after the Second World War. And Suella Braverman, as you say there, Nana, education, equalities and skills. Of course, the big concern is always going to be when you import people and give them jobs, you do put noses out of joint. We asked those questions of Nigel Farage. He gave some quite tough answers. He says if people mess about, are disloyal, they won't be here for long. Well, let's mark that. Let's see how that plays out. And there's no internal upset I know of, he said. If there is, tough. We're not mucking about here. No other job for Lee Anderson, of course. He's the Shadow Chief Whip. No jobs for Sarah Pochin. Danny Kruger stays looking after policy. Andrew Rosendale sitting in the front row. No job for him. But I put those questions to Nigel Farage in my questioning there. And here's what he had to say.
Why no Defence Secretary? Why no
I can't win, really, can I?
Well, no, but these are the most important issues facing this country, our protection. Why have you chosen these individuals for these jobs particularly? And what about others? Lee Anderson, he's not here. Sarah Pochin, why have you chosen people who aren't MPs for jobs over MPs? And Richard Tice, are you happy you're not Shadow Chancellor?
OK. This time yesterday, we're a one-man band. I mean, now you want a bus full. I mean, what can I do? I've appointed 4 people that I think are ideally suited to those roles. Very straightforward, very simple. And I think if you listen to me carefully, at the end I said, this is just the beginning. And that's exactly what it is. OK, do you want to respond to that, Richard?
Yeah, look, we're all delighted. We're getting on with the job. And as Shadow Deputy Prime Minister, leading a huge department that meets my skills, doing things differently, that's who we are at Reform. And this British Sovereign Wealth Fund that I talk about next week, come along, Chris, to the Midlands. I know it's a bit further north, but come along and you'll listen to the detail.
Yeah, your question actually sums up in a way why we failed post-war and why Germany didn't. They thought about economics and business differently to us, and they outperformed us decade after decade after decade. And we didn't. We left absolutely everything under the Treasury banner, and frankly, there's an awful lot more to do out there, out around the country, and I'm looking forward to Richard. Well, I mean, we'll barely see him. He's going to be in Aberdeen, and he's going to be up visiting what's left of our refineries, what's left of our manufacturing industry. So it's an absolutely vital job, given the dire economics we're currently in. Alex from the BBC.
So there, Richard Tice saying he's got the job he wanted. Now, the language there from Nigel Farage is interesting. He says he's chosen jobs here that are ideally suited to the MPs he's got. There is no foreign affairs spokesman. There's no defence spokesman. Arguably, that is one of the key issues facing this country, with the threat of Russia and some would say of China too. So that's interesting. Who will he bring in for those roles? We've got 4 new front bench roles plus a chief whip. A cabinet is normally 22, 24 people. Who else will be in those roles? We may not know, but we almost certainly won't know before the election in 2029, or as Nigel Farage thinks, next year, and that's why he's selecting his candidates quickly. But we heard an indication of what these individuals might try and do. Richard Tice said he would axe next net stupid zero, so damaging, establish a new UK sovereign Welsh fund, as he's heard there, try and re-industrialise the country as Germany did after World War II. Robert Jenrick, big speech tomorrow in the City. I'll be there for that, to hear that. He talked about lower taxes, cutting bills, fixing our broken economy, and looking after. And I thought the interesting line there, that almost channeling a Thatcherite idea there, looking after your money, taxpayers' money, as you would do your own. That's interesting, and it will chime a lot with people. Zia Youssef, the only one who's not an MP on stage there. We will stop the boats, he said. We'll rip up every international treaty that stops us doing this. It'll deal with the Boris wave. He said, if you come here with the goal to upend our laws, you will be deported. Big round of applause for that. And finally, Suella Braverman, feeding for our schools, scrap equality legislation, scrap one of her portfolios, as you said there, and tackle gender ideology. Yeah, we have now got a feeling for how a possible reform government might look. Only 8 MPs, tiny party in Parliament, punching big though on the national stage with that legal win yesterday, forcing the government to have those elections in 30 council areas they weren't going to have. And you heard there from Nigel Farage, we're seeing less of him around the country and more of these spokespeople.
All right, Christopher Hope, thank you very much. Now, Christopher did allude to those cancelled elections, which the odd thing is, when I have a panel on, a lot of the people who are on the left actually disagree with the notion that the elections should be cancelled. Most of them think that it's wrong for that to happen. So it is interesting who actually agrees with the elections being cancelled.
I've got a slight suggestion of who that might be.
Who?
The councillors who think they're going to lose their seats.
Other than them.
Well, of course, it's been another U-turn on this very issue. The Labour Party has dropped plans to delay voting in 30 councils. This after a legal challenge from the Reform Party.
Now, election officials are warning that they face an uphill struggle to be ready for May's local elections, and organisers say months of planning have been lost, while critics warn confidence in the process has been damaged.
Well, joining us now from Cheltenham is GBNews national reporter Jack Carson. Jack, now a mad scramble to get this vote set up.
Well, that is the situation that now these local authorities, some 30 of them that decided to postpone their elections locally this year, now face. Of course, it's following what the government are calling new legal advice to them. Following new legal advice, they said in a statement yesterday, the government has withdrawn its original decision to postpone 30 local elections in May. It all comes after the Reform UK party took the government to court around this issue. This here in Cheltenham is a Liberal Democrat-run council. It was the only Liberal Democrat-run council that opted to postpone them, and at the time, their leader, Councillor Rowena Hay, said the decision to postpone these elections was the right one due to boundary changes in 2024. All 40 of the councillors were only elected 2 years ago, and so they're only 2 years into a 4-year term, so they saw no reason for these elections to take place. All of them had the option to postpone around the country because of new changes coming to local government, the merging essentially of those big county councils with those more local district and borough councils, creating bigger unitary authorities where people could go to one place rather than, say, multiple locations. But we've been speaking to people here on the streets of Cheltenham, on this beautiful high street here, finding out what they thought of the decision to reinstate the elections this summer.
I think it's a great idea, and it shouldn't have gone in the way that it did in the first place. We're all entitled to vote. You shouldn't be able to stop people voting when it's due.
It does sound a bit of a confusion, doesn't it? It sounds like they're not really sure whether they can or whether they can't. Now they've changed their minds again, so who knows what they're trying to do.
I think they should never have been not on. So, yeah, I think they should be back on. I know it's costly, but it's, you know, you need to have the election.
Everyone's glad in this town that we're going to get a chance to vote again. Because Gloucester had the right to vote, but Cheltenham didn't, which doesn't seem...
Yeah, it is a sense really from everyone that we've spoken to here on the street here that there was almost confusion as to why the elections were cancelled in the first place. People wanted their voice to be heard. They wanted that element of democracy to still be in place. And on the point that you heard one of the people say about, you know, it costs money to put these elections on, Steve Reed from, of course, the local government department has said that the government would provide an extra £63 million to the 21 areas affected by this U-turn.
Jack Carson, thank you so much. Well, joining us now is the Labour MP for Dunfermline and Dollar, is Graham Downey. Graham, welcome to the programme. Graham, what is your thoughts on these cancelled local elections that are now happening? Should they have gone ahead in the first place?
I think, as a Scottish MP, I'm very aware of how troublesome and problematic local council reorganisation can be. I think we've seen a little bit of that happen here with something that's obviously quite tricky to deliver. It was the councils themselves that obviously asked for the elections to be postponed. Obviously the government has now had legal advice that it's unable to fulfil that request, and the elections will go ahead in May.
Before we get back to the English issue, obviously as a Scottish Labour Member of Parliament, you're in a little bit of a tricky situation come May. You've got a leader in Scotland who says the Prime Minister should lose his job, and yet the guy running his campaign, the Secretary of State for Scotland, says that the Prime Minister should keep his job. I mean, your party is hideously divided north of the border on this issue.
I don't believe we are, actually, to be honest. I think we've got a UK government and a Scottish Labour Party who are absolutely united that Anas Sarwar should be the next First Minister of Scotland.
But not united on Keir
20 years of the SNP wrecking public services from health, education and transport. That's what we'll be all working towards come the elections in May. What I will not allow to happen is the SNP or anyone else to make the election in Scotland about anything other than whether or not Anas Sarwar or John Swinney should be the First Minister of Scotland.
What about Keir Starmer, though? Are you in the camp that you believe he needs to go, as even some of his backbenchers and some of his frontbenchers, by the looks of it, would appear to want?
I think it's been very clear the PLP have backed Keir Starmer as the Prime Minister, as has the Cabinet. He's been delivering for the UK and indeed for Scotland for the last 18 months. He'll be continuing to do so. He's taken responsibility for some of the errors he believes his government has made. We're about fixing them and being honest with the British people and making sure that we're continuing to deliver.
I mean, it does seem a little bit strange if you're proposing a man to be First Minister of Scotland in Anas Sarwar, who hasn't even been able to lead his own party, let alone all of Scotland. I mean, he marched up to the top of the hill to declare that Starmer should go, and literally no one followed him. I mean, why should he be First Minister with leadership skills like that?
He should be First Minister because he's got the right plan to fix public services in Scotland, and that's the most important thing that people on the doors that I speak to are concerned about how do they get a GP appointment, how do we make sure we're delivering the right education and skills that we need for the future, how do we make sure we're delivering transport systems that we need for the future, all these items where the SNP have fundamentally failed for the last 20 years, and Anas is going to be the only person who can replace John Swinney as First Minister after 2 decades almost of SNP rule in Scotland, which has just seen a decline in the Scottish economy and a decline in public services.
To be honest, Graham, I actually thought that Anas Sarwar stuck by his guns and showed conviction as a leader, and I quite like the fact that he was prepared to stand by what he believed in as the right thing to do, which is quite rare in politics, so I'll give him that, and I think I agree with him, actually. But what effect has that had on the support for Scottish Labour since that happened?
I mean, I think you saw polling out in the Sunday Times at the weekend that showed people in Scotland thought Anas had been very brave with that decision. I think you summed it up perfectly there. Anas is his own man. I've known Anas for a long time. His first duty is to stand up for Scotland and to speak his mind. That's what he's done. That is absolutely his right and position as leader of Scottish Labour. I think this is a point sometimes missed, to be honest, that he is the leader of Scottish Labour. He is being asked about this issue. He's given his opinion. That doesn't stop the fact that both he and the Prime Minister will campaign together to make Anas the First Minister in May.
Oh, that's going to be an awkward bus tour, isn't it? It's going to be sitting next to each other. You know, he wasn't asked about it. He called a press conference to demand the Prime Minister should go.
No, but he called Keir Starmer to tell him what he thought, which I thought was quite respectful,
it's
which
just
is what you do. But this, I think, was a matter of conscience, and Anna stuck with his conscience. And I don't agree with Scottish Labour. I don't support Scottish Labour. I don't support any party, actually, as it goes. But I think that he did I think he did himself proud by speaking up for what he believed in.
It'll be a fascinating one to watch. Graham Downey, I'm afraid we've run out of time, but thank you so much for coming on and speaking a little bit about those cancelled local elections and a lot about what's going on in Scotland too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Right, well, it's just coming up to 25 minutes after 1 o'clock. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show.
Yes, a phone is stolen every few minutes in the capital. Now, police say they're fighting back with drones. But after the break...
A major free speech test at the High Court as prosecutors seek to reinstate the conviction of a man who burned a Quran in protest.
All of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 1. Now, the High Court is hearing an appeal challenging the decision to overturn a man called Hamit Koskin's conviction for a religiously aggravated public order offence, with judges being urged to reject prosecutors' attempts to police offence on behalf of religion.
Wow.
Now, that's a lot of words, but, Nana, what does that actually mean?
Well, it basically means that Mr Koskin, he was actually originally convicted last June for burning the Quran outside the Turkish embassy. conspiracy. He had that conviction overturned in October after a judge ruled that criminal law is not a mechanism that seeks to avoid people being upset. And there's been a subsequent further attempt to try and prosecute him again. And now this is the third time that they're trying to do it again. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, here to explain it all is Mark White. Mark, our legal eagle, on top of all of the detail, what on earth is going on here?
Well, this is it, isn't it? You know, the niceties of the law as it pertains to freedom of speech can be quite impenetrable. But it boils down to the fact that this gentleman, Hamid Koskun, travelled down from the West Midlands, where he lived, down to Knightsbridge in West London on the 13th of February last year to burn a Quran outside the Turkish consulate. That caused a great deal of concern for people that were living there. In fact, Hamid Koskun was attacked by another man, Musa Kadri, wielding a knife, who chased him, slashing out at him. You know, Mr. Koskun fell down onto the ground, and this man, Kadri, continued kicking him while he was on the ground. Yet, Kadri was sentenced to 20 weeks in prison, suspended for 18 months. So, in other words, judges hate you saying this, but he escaped a jail term. And Mr. Koskun was then subsequently charged and convicted initially of a racially aggravated public order offence for burning that Quran outside and upsetting, potentially, people.
Racially aggravated? At what point do we sort of explain the very, very basics of the birds and the bees to our dear prosecutors here in England, that religion and race are different things, that Hamid Koskun himself is racially from the same area that he's allegedly being racially aggravated against?
Yes, and that point and various other points were argued then in a subsequent appeal against his conviction, which Mr. Koskun won. He won that, and indeed the judge at the time, Justice Ben Athens, said that while burning the Quran might be something many Muslims would find desperately upsetting and offensive, the right to freedom of expression must include the right to express views that shock and disturb. So that should have been that, but the Crown Prosecution Service have decided again to appeal against that decision by Mr. Justice Ben Athens. So that's where we are today. We're back at the Royal Courts of Justice with two judges hearing an appeal by the Crown Prosecution Service against that decision, saying that actually, no, this was a racially aggravated public order offence, and that by burning the Quran, and not just that, by using the words, as he shouted at the time, that Islam was a religion of terrorism and F Islam, that added to the public order element of the offence that was committed.
So it's the Crown Prosecution Service that are coming back on this, not anybody else?
No, it's the Crown Prosecution Service. So basically, you had the original conviction overturned by the High Court, and now the Crown Prosecution Service determined not to just sit on this, but feeling that there's an important point of law and principle here, that they should go back again to the Royal Courts of Justice to have this appeal. I should say we won't get a decision today. That's going to be a reserved judgment until a later day. And another thing to add to this, the United States has been watching what's happening in terms of the debate over freedom of expression in this country with increasing alarm. The US administration has said that it is potentially minded to offer Hamid Koskun refugee status in the US should this decision go against him.
Why would who would have prosecuted him initially then, or attempted to prosecute him initially? Would it have been the Crown Prosecution Service?
It would have been a group of senior lawyers within the Crown Prosecution Service. But it must have gone up to the Director of Public Prosecutions to sign off on an expensive appeal, again, against that original decision. They, as I say, are doing it on what they will argue is a point of principle and a point of law, but it's an expensive departure to go down this route, and of course it flies against the original decision of a judge, and it's highly controversial because of all of what we were discussing around freedom of expression and where this leaves the ability of the freedom of speech. Do we really have freedom of speech in this country, or is, you know, civil liberties groups argue, is this a blasphemy law being introduced by the back door?
And of course the CPS has form on this. A former Director of Public Prosecutions by the name of Sir Keir Starmer once went after an individual for a Twitter joke about an airport that the airport had admitted was a joke, and said, look, we don't want this guy to be prosecuted. And Keir Starmer personally insisted that some 20-something who tweeted a joke about an airport, because it was closed, and his life was put through the ringer. And thank goodness for people like I think a bunch of comedians in the end came forward to protect this guy, and he was given pro bono legal assistance, and Keir Starmer was vanquished. But that was the Twitter airport joke.
Was he the former Director of Public Prosecutions?
Mark White, we have to leave it there. We've got to get to our news headlines, you two jabberers, jibber-jabbering. Yes, well, I'm going to add a bit there as well. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show, but first, your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon, 35 minutes past 1. The top story this lunchtime. Nigel Farage has unveiled Reform UK's new top team, saying it's about preparing the party for government. Richard Tice becomes deputy leader, Robert Jenrick takes the economy brief, Zia Youssef handles home affairs, while Suella Braverman leads on education, skills and equality.
I'm very pleased now to be part of a very productive and mission-led team, which is focused ultimately on serving the British people.
Election officials are warning they face an uphill struggle to be ready for May's local elections after the government scrapped plans to delay votes in around 30 council areas. Organisers say months of planning have been lost, while critics warn confidence in the process has been damaged. More than 50 years after being forced from their homes, a group of Chagos Islanders say they've begun a permanent return. 4 people have arrived on the remote archipelago, defying a British exclusion zone. They say they plan to stay as the UK considers handing sovereignty to Mauritius. Here, unemployment has climbed yet again, rising to a near 5-year high. The ONS suggests that 5.2% of the population were out of work between October and December last year. And tributes are pouring in for US civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who has died at the age of 84. He worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup from the newsroom at 2.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Lots more coming up on today's programme.
Yes, a phone is stolen every few minutes in the capital, and now police are saying that they're fighting back with drones. Interesting.
Well, all of that and much more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. So dry with sunny spells for much of the UK, but it will still be feeling quite cool in the breeze, and that rain will be returning later on this evening. So this frontal system arriving tonight, but we do have this ridge of high pressure building across much of the UK through today, giving fine and settled conditions. Best of the sunshine will be across the north and parts of northern Scotland and northeastern UK, but it will be feeling a touch cool in that breeze, particularly down that northeastern coast. Elsewhere, fairly dry and plenty of sunny spells, but that sunshine will be turning a touch hazier and milkier the further southwest that you go. Temperatures 4 to 5 degrees and feeling cool in that breeze, and a touch milder the further south that we go, and particularly mild across the far southwest. That rain will start to push in later on, but ahead of that we have some dry and clear weather across most of Scotland, and Shetland and Orkney seeing some sleet and snow showers that could turn a bit more persistent later on, but much of Scotland staying dry and clear overnight. Winds picking up across Northern Ireland, but again it'll be largely dry for most of the start of the evening. Again, most places staying dry, a touch cool, but Devon and Cornwall will already start to see that rain pushing in by the time we head into Tuesday evening. Now that rain will continue to spread northeastwards, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland as we head into the early hours of the morning, and that could be a touch of sleet and snow mixed into there over the high ground of Northern Ireland and perhaps parts of Wales, but elsewhere largely falling as rain as we head in towards Wednesday morning. Cool again across the northeastern half of the country and a touch milder across the far southwest. As we head through Wednesday then, so that rain continues to move northeast, becoming a bit more persistent over parts of Northern Ireland and the southwest of Cornwall and pushing into Wales and perhaps London later on the afternoon. It could turn a touch snowy as we head later on through the evening, so do keep an eye on those warnings where you are. That's all for now, thanks.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The southbound junction 15 off slip on the M74 is currently closed due to essential roadworks, and travellers are urged to allow additional travel time and follow the posted diversion signs if heading in that direction. Meanwhile, Great Western Railway is experiencing widespread route disruptions, which may result in altered timetables and numerous cancellations throughout the day. ScotRail has also issued warnings about possible disruptions on the line between Crianlarich and Mallaig, so travellers should verify their routes and prepare for potential delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's just gone 40 minutes after 1 o'clock. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Now, the Metropolitan Police have arrested more than 200 people for phone thefts in the past 4 weeks, as the force aims to stamp out the rising crime.
Better late than never. Well, Commander Andrew Featherstone said that cutting-edge technologies such as drones, e-bikes and facial recognition had been used to catch and arrest individuals.
Well, joining us now is former Metropolitan Police officer and author Graham Wetton. Graham, this is good news, isn't it, that they are actually finally doing something? Because usually you're told, have you got your crime reference number? Go and get that, and then call the insurance company. Bye-bye, phone. That's it, isn't it, usually?
Yeah, normally, yeah, good afternoon both. Yes, sadly, that has been the case for a number of years. I think the Met, in fact, this is one of those stories that actually make me miss being in the police. There's some real proactive, excellent work being done using technology, using the drones that they've now got, e-bikes that the Met have now got hold of, so they can pursue and catch some of these criminals. But I think the Commissioner's right to highlight other aspects as well. And we've been saying this for years. Yes, the police could do a lot more, and we said that before in interviews. But it's not just the policing problem, that the tech companies, the phone companies, and dare I say it, the justice system also needs to do their part. The police are doing a huge part now themselves, but they cannot solve this alone. The public as well needs to do an awful lot more about stopping their phones being stolen.
Oh, no, I'm not having that. I mean, sorry, the public needs to do more about stopping their phones being stolen.
Yeah.
Well, in any other city on the face of the planet, I can walk around with a phone in my hand like this. In London, I walk around with my phone in my claw like this, because I've had my phone snatched from me before.
Well,
it ended up in China somewhere.
Well, you're doing something.
But I don't think we should have to live like this.
Exactly. But you're doing something.
You're doing something. You're clawing your hand.
But there are people out in London. I see it all the time. I was in London literally 2 days ago. People are literally walking along, looking at their phone. That's you're almost like walking along, and you know this is happening. We report this enough. thousands of phones are being stolen. There are basic things that people can do to try to at least...
But we shouldn't have to do this. Women should be allowed to walk the streets in a short skirt, and it's not their fault if someone goes after them. I should be allowed to hold my phone absent-mindedly.
So are you saying that you'd walk around with your wallet hanging out at the back of your trousers? I mean, we all have a little bit of responsibility to try and protect ourselves from crime, but I hear you that it's the follow-up as well that is missing. So there's a huge backlog for the Crown Prosecution Service, and then, of course, the police have to go and do all the admin and all that, and that takes time and takes them off the streets. Do you think, though, that... Because what other, for example, Reform UK, they're saying, actually, we need more police stations. We need to bring back the Bobby on the beat. We need more investment in the police, because this apparently cost £250,000 or £1 million, sorry, or whatever it is to do. This small sting that only, they only found 10,000 phones.
Yeah, it does. We do need more investment. Reform are quite right on that aspect. We need more investment in policing, more officers on the street, more visible policing presence, which will deter some of those, which Tommy's alluded to. We need more of a deterrent on the street, so people can walk around a lot safer. We don't leave our front doors open anymore, so we actually do some protection with our property. We need to enlarge that or expand that into the street. But policing needs to do an awful lot more, have a more visible policing presence on the street, more stations open and accessible, officers much closer to communities. When you shut police stations, we have a lot further to travel, and it sounds perverse, but you jump in your police car to go to the area you are patrolling, 20, 30 minutes, you double that for 2 return journeys, that's an hour out of your patrol time, when you could be on the street, preventing crime initially, which is what you should be doing, and then actually detecting it if it takes place. I've seen people literally walking around, and this is in the Met report, they see these people coming on the bikes, they look around to see if there is a visible police presence, and they will go away for a day or two. So deterrent is a major aspect of this policing operation.
We just need to make sure that once these guys are caught, they stay behind bars, because it is this small number of people that commit a huge proportion of the crime. If we lock up 100 or so bike thieves or phone thieves, I mean, the number of phone thefts will be disproportionately collapsing. Because they do so many in a day each.
Well, this is good, because it's kind of organised crime, isn't it? And that's the problem with it. It's not just one phone going, it's a whole organisation. Yeah,
that's part of the joy of that policing approach to this. They're looking at people, one, that steal the phones in the first place, 2, who handles them, who they then give them to, and 3, the bigger organisation that's gathering literally thousands of phones and shipping them abroad. So there's a multi-layered approach by the Met on this to focus on all levels of this operation, but initially locking people up, putting them before the courts, and it is the same faces, the same individuals that are going out committing these crimes because they're still on the streets.
All right.
Well, let's hope they throw away the key. Graham Wetton, thanks indeed for joining us. Former police officer, of course, and author. Right.
Now, if you want to have a shot at winning our brand new Great British Giveaway, here is a chance. Your chance to get your summer sorted, a holiday worth £10,000 for 2. And that's not all. You get £30,000 in tax-free cash. Here are the details.
You could win cash and the ultimate holiday in our 2-part Great British Giveaway. Thanks to Riviera Travel, you could be jetting off on a £10,000 dream holiday for 2 people. With flights, transfers and luxury accommodation included, you'll get to choose the kind of holiday you want. So whether you're looking for hotel comfort or on a relaxing river cruise, you'll be able to find the perfect match from over 30 global destinations on offer. And because the holiday is handpicked with you in mind, you know it's going to be perfect. Plus, we're going to give you £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Your summer can start here, so make sure you don't miss out.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, good luck indeed.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, so YouTuber and experimental artist Look Mum No Computer is heading to Eurovision for the UK. Will it be glory or nul point?
Well, now, if you're in search of some holiday sunshine, perhaps even in Vienna, where Eurovision is going to be this year, well, let's check out the weather there.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, if you're heading away for half term, it's a little bit drier across the Mediterranean than it has been lately. Further wet weather, though, affecting more northwestern areas of Europe. The Canary Islands seeing the best, the warmest and the driest weather across Europe. Some wet weather pushing into France and Spain. Drier than it has been across parts of Italy and Greece, and that theme does continue in towards the end of the week and into the weekend as well. But once again, Tenerife seeing highs of 24 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
So we're giving them artificial intelligence. What they need at this stage in their lives is real human connections. They need conversations, they need interactions, they need real world experiences. They need to develop their cognitive skills before they can even understand, and their verbal skills, before they can even understand the concept of virtual reality. What is this thing that we've created? And Dawn, you know how it is with ChatGPT. It's very empathetic. It's very supportive. It reinforces you. It doesn't disagree with you. It doesn't break up with you. It doesn't tell you you're wrong. So children and young people are not experiencing those kind of difficult situations. Is it any wonder they're depressed, they're lonely, they're anxious, and they're getting obese?
Lewis, to pass it over to you, is there a positive case to be made for artificial intelligence here? Maybe we look at our biggest competitors like America and China. Will we be putting our kids behind in the race for technology as AI is not going anywhere, is it? Let's be real.
100%. I mean, I think that, look, everything Emma says is right. No one's saying, right, let's get rid of teachers and human interaction and just give them a chatbot. It is just a tool. And if we ban it, we are missing a huge opportunity to really level up kids everywhere. We still have children unable to read and write leaving schools. AI could understand how people are actually learning. It could clock, actually, you know what, I'm not going to show you this as a text because you're a visual learner. I'm going to show you this as a video. Actually, I'm going to give you tailored homework based on the things you haven't actually taken in. It can support teachers and flag that there are issues that need to be looked at, that actually they're really struggling with this or that. There is such potential that we could actually tailor education to the individual child that I think that we would be mad to give that up.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
It's just gone 10 to 2. Now, Britain's representative for the annual Eurovision Song Contest has been announced, with the electronic act Look Mum No Computer set to take the stage as they aim to win over voters across Europe.
Well, with the UK not having won the competition since 1997, and I think they deserved it not to win because the songs were very bad.
Apart from 2021, when we did sort of win.
No, but we didn't, no. We should have won, but we didn't. But then
morally we won.
Morally, no, No, morally Ukraine won. We
they
actually
got the sympathy
won.
vote.
That's morally. I'd call that the morally win. So we haven't won since 1997, I think, for good reason. Apart from Sam Ryder was very good, but obviously there were other things at play. It's very political Eurovision. Will Sam Battle, this is his name, be able to turn the nation's luck around?
Well, joining us now is former UK Eurovision contestant in the year 2000, Nikki French. Nikki, thanks indeed for joining us. Hi.
Hello, both of you.
First of all, good to see you. Now, Look Mum No Computer is not a household name. Is this the sort of slightly different thing we need this time around?
Do you know what? When I first had the call to do this and a couple of other interviews this morning, I went straight on YouTube as everyone else does, and I played a few of his songs, and I'm not disheartened. I was expecting to absolutely hate it, but do you know what? The guy's clever, and he's kind of, what I heard was a mixture of Kraftwerk, Gary Newman, mixed with Blur and Madness. And it's just very quirky. He's got a lovely energy about him, very positive. Hopefully the staging will be good, because he's obviously an absolute whiz with electronics, so he can probably do the staging himself. But, you know, he's got a Guinness World Record for building the world's largest drone synthesizer. I mean, he's a clever young man, and this will raise his presence on social media hugely. He says he's a huge fan of the contest. I'm not quite sure of that, but let's take him at his word.
All right.
Who knows? We could need a bit of synthesizing, as he says.
All right, well, look, I listen to his music. I remember your song, Don't Play That Song on the Radio Again. Unfortunately, people didn't, which was very sad, because it was all right, Nikki.
Exactly.
You did a good job. You represented the UK. And, you know,
but we did get Party of the Week.
Exactly. All right.
Fantastic. Well, Nikki French, thanks so much for joining us. And I do have to say, perhaps this is the way that we need to win some more votes. Nikki's surname is, of course, French. No doubt that will encourage the French to vote for us. No, I don't know. Well, much more to come on Good Afternoon Britain. Do stay with us. Now it's the weather.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. For the rest of today, sunny spells will continue for much of the country, and down that northeasterly coast, winds will start to ease. But we do have a further frontal system arriving from the southwest that will push into parts of Devon and Cornwall through this evening. Ahead of that, a ridge of high pressure and some fairly settled conditions. So Scotland and the northeast of England seeing a fairly fine end to Tuesday, but it won't be long before this frontal system pushes further east as we head through the overnight period, arriving into Northern Ireland into the early hours of Wednesday across parts of Wales as well. Could be a touch sleety on this too. So a cold start to Wednesday, a touch more cloud, some places close to freezing or below across the northern half of the country, milder certainly across the far southwest as well. Moving through the rest of Wednesday morning, then there will still be a few sleet, perhaps snow showers for parts of Shetland, but the bulk of Scotland should largely stay dry. A couple of showers around. It will be a touch cloudier than it will be on Tuesday. Northern Ireland is going to have to see a fairly damp day. Strong southeasterly winds across most of the country, so it will be a cloudier and cooler feeling day with that strong wind. Rain across a lot of the southern half of the UK. We've got a rain warning in force, and that'll be right the way through Wednesday and into the early hours of Thursday as well. So particularly wet day across the south. We could see some high totals falling here, particularly over some high ground as well. And as we head later on through Wednesday and into the evening, then there is a risk of that turning to snow. Ahead of that, in the cool air, 4 to 5 degrees, but again feeling particularly brisk in that strong wind. And this is the snow warning we're talking about, so mainly affecting parts of Wales, Shropshire, Herefordshire area. There could be a risk of up to 2 to 5 centimetres, but mainly over higher ground. Heading through Thursday, drier for many, rain again on Friday, but it's looking much milder for everyone by the weekend.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's only 2 weeks remaining to see how you could win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, we could be sorting out your summer with an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000, courtesy of Riviera Travel. You'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 17th of February. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Nana Akua. Nigel Farage and...
The time has come to broaden the party, to put in place people in shadow positions, and that process begins today.
Nigel Farage unveils his top team for Reform UK.
Yes, Richard Tice is confirmed as Deputy Leader and heading up the Business, Energy, Trade and Housing Department. Suella Braverman is going to be Education and Skills. Zia Youssef, Reform's Shadow Home Secretary, shadow their word. And of course, Robert Jenrick heading up the Treasury Brief.
That's right, Nigel Farage sets out his top team, a big step forward for a party that he said was a one-man band. And if anyone's disloyal, they're out.
Local elections back on in May after a surprise climb down from ministers. Electoral teams say that they're now scrambling to make up for lost time.
Unemployment climbs to a 5-year high as businesses warn hiring has become too expensive.
Now this is a little frightening. NASA warns Earth isn't ready to stop thousands of so-called city-killer asteroids hurtling through space.
And on a lighter note, it's Pancake Day and the flipping has begun. We're live in Scarborough for the town's famous pancake races and seaside celebrations.
Shrove
Tuesday is being celebrated in style here in Scarborough. We've had pancake races, pancake flipping, fancy dress, and now we've got children and adults out skipping and enjoying the rest of the afternoon.
It's nice to see that it's finally stopped raining. Scarborough looks very nice.
Yes.
Scarborough is nice, actually. I've been out there before.
Yeah, beautiful beachfront.
Yeah, lovely beachfront.
But I have to say, I mean, yesterday I thought winter was over. Yesterday I was sort of walking through a park and it was beautiful sunshine in the morning, and then it got to about 4 p.m. and the most torrential rain that you'd ever sort of experienced, and just massive bursts. I'm sure it was like that in much of the country.
It was around about that time, I remember. Because I sat in my car when I got home. I thought, oh, I'll just sit in and listen to the radio, and then it started raining. I thought, I should have got out 5 minutes ago. If I'd got out, I'd have been fine, but
It does seem to be that this has been the worst start to a year weather-wise that at least I can remember. And I just think, I mean, yeah, it's sort of miserable for us who have to sort of get out the brolly every time, get a bit wet. But what about the farmers? They're trying to sort of make sure that the fields are going to be ready to grow some food for us, and they're all waterlogged.
Well, I mean, you know, some of them may have given up the ghost. They're probably sick and tired of everything, given the sort of ridiculous policies that have come through towards them. But anyway, what's the weather like where you are? Is it nice? Let us know your thoughts, your comments at gbnews.com/your say, or why not scan the QR code on the screen. But first, your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. Just after 2 o'clock, the top story this afternoon. Nigel Farage has unveiled his new top team, a group he's calling his shadow cabinet, though it's effectively a lineup of party spokespeople. Richard Tice has been confirmed as deputy leader, with Farage saying that he would be a deputy prime minister if Reform wins power, and he'll also take on the business and energy brief along with trade. Former Tory minister, meanwhile, Robert Jenrick, well, he becomes the party's economic spokesperson, blaming what he calls decades of mismanagement for Britain's economic problems. Businessman Zia Youssef, who isn't an MP, takes the Home Affairs role, focusing heavily on immigration. And Suella Braverman will lead on education, skills and on equality.
I'm very pleased now to be part of a very productive and mission-led team, which is focused ultimately on serving the British people.
Councils are facing what organisers are calling a race against time to prepare for local elections after the government reversed its decision to delay dozens of votes. Elections will now go ahead in around 30 council areas on the 7th of May after ministers abandoned plans to postpone them following legal advice. The body representing election administrators says staff have lost months of planning time and now face an uphill struggle to get everything ready. The government, though, says more than £60 million is being made available to help councils to manage the changes. Andrew Griffith spoke to us earlier. He says the situation shows a lack of planning at the heart of government.
Rather than focus on jobs, rather than focus on defence, rather than focus on fixing our healthcare system, have decided to inflict this ridiculous local government reorganisation on the country. It's properly mad. And on a day that we've got the highest unemployment for 5 years, young people finding it incredibly hard to get a job, they shouldn't just shelve their cancellation, they should shelve the whole of their local government reorganisation and get on with the real job.
More than 50 years after being forced from their homes, a group of Chagos Islanders say they've begun a permanent return. 4 people landed on the remote archipelago, defying a British exclusion zone, and say hundreds more could follow. Their leader, Misli Mandarin, says many islanders want the chance to return before it's too late. The Chagosians were removed by British authorities in the late 1960s and 70s and resettled mainly in Mauritius. The group says they now plan to stay as the UK considers handing sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius. Well, earlier, the former MP Adam Holloway spoke to us from the islands, where he's helping Chagosians raise new funds for their settlement. He says the government's deal to surrender the islands was completely crazy.
We're trying to turn this place over to Mauritius without asking him, the democratically elected person. It's quite extraordinary. And what we're hoping to do by having this, a permanent settlement here, what we're hoping to do is we have successfully changed the facts on the ground. Now I hope the law and good sense will catch up with.
The UK's unemployment rate has climbed to a near 5-year high, rising to 5.2% in the final 3 months of 2025. The Office for National Statistics says the increase reflects weak hiring and more people actively looking for work, with the rate edging up from 5.1% the previous quarter, higher than economists had expected. Wage growth is also slowing, with regular pay rising just 4.2% annually, while redundancies are trending upwards. And tributes are pouring in for the late civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who has sadly died at the age of 84, including, in the last few minutes, from President Donald Trump, who has said he knew him well and described him as a good man with grit and with street smarts. Well, his family says he passed away peacefully this morning, surrounded by loved ones. Jackson was, of course, a towering figure in the fight for racial equality, working alongside Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement. He also made history with 2 runs for Democratic presidential nominee in 1980. Those are the latest headlines for now. Next, a quick look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Fast approaching 8 minutes past 2. The markets for you. The pound will buy $1.3569 and €1.1466. The price of gold is £3,631.34 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 1,513 points. And apologies there for the slight error with the graphic.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 8 minutes past 2, and Nigel Farage has unveiled the Reform Party's new top team, declaring the party as the voice of opposition to this Labour government.
Richard Tice has been announced as Reform's deputy leader and head of business and trade. Robert Jenrick has been announced as Reform UK's shadow chancellor. Zia Youssef will be Reform UK's Home Affairs spokesman, and Suella Braverman will be Reform UK's new Education, Skills and Equality spokeswoman.
Well, let's cross live to GB News political editor Christopher Hope. Christopher, I want to start with one particular potential tension at the top of the Reform Party now. 2 big economics briefs given out, one to Robert Jenrick with what they're calling the Shadow Chancellor brief, but then this other economic department, a new department that Reform say they will create, business, energy, trade, housing's in there as well. It's a super ministry for Richard Tice.
Yes, we've seen it before, haven't we, when Tony Blair gave John Prescott that super ministry of environment, transport and the regions to keep him happy as being Deputy Prime Minister under Tony Blair back in 1997, of course. He held that job, though, John Prescott, for 10 years, to be fair to him. But it was almost unmanageable, the scale of it. I think what's happening here is Nigel Farage is trying to say, I want to have this kind of all-encompassing democratic, industrial energy engine, really, to drive forward growth. He likened the UK as needing to have that kind of that insertion of energy, money and energy and growth, really, that we saw at the back end in 1950s Germany. That's what he's trying to channel, and that's what he's given to Richard Tice. But of course, it means he hasn't been made, frankly, the Shadow Chancellor job, which we thought was his for the taking. He met with the Bank of England governor only a few months ago with Nigel Farage, but that was before this party changed, with new blood coming in at the very top level, notably Robert Jenrick. Now, the idea of importing jealousies from other parties is something which Nigel Farage squashed very quickly in that hour-long press conference earlier. He said if people want to be disloyal, he said, they won't be here for long. He also said there's no internal upset I know of about this shake-up, but if there is, tough. We are not mucking about here. He says that because he thinks there'll be a general election next year caused by some form of financial crisis caused by the cost of borrowing. That's what he's been saying for a while. and that's why he's selecting candidates now. But there we have it. We have Richard Tice in there in that super ministry role, business, trade, energy. Robert Jenrick, Shadow Chancellor, making a speech tomorrow. Zia Youssef, the Shadow Home Affairs spokesman, and Suella Braverman, of course, education, skills and equalities. I don't know if we have that question I asked Nigel Farage moments ago, but I was trying to get him to explain why there's no Foreign Affairs or Defence spokesman. I'm not sure if we can play it now.
Why no Defence Secretary? Why no Foreign
I can't win, really, can I?
Well, no, but these are the most important issues facing this country, our protection. Why have you chosen these individuals for these jobs particularly? And what about others? Lee Anderson, he's not here. Sarah Pochin, why have you chosen people who aren't MPs for jobs over MPs? And Richard Tice, are you happy you're not Shadow Chancellor?
OK, I can't win. This time yesterday, we're a one-man band. I mean, now you want a bus full. I mean, what can I do? I've appointed 4 people that I think are ideally suited to those roles. Very straightforward, very simple. And I think if you listen to me carefully, at the end I said, this is just the beginning. And that's exactly what it is. OK, do you want to respond to that, Richard?
Yeah, look, we're all delighted. We're getting on with the job. And as Shadow Deputy Prime Minister, leading a huge department that meets my skills, doing things differently, that's who we are at Reform. And this British Sovereign Wealth Fund that I talk about next week, come along, Chris, to the Midlands. I know it's a bit further north, but come along and you'll listen to the detail.
Yeah, your question actually sums up in a way why we failed post-war and why Germany didn't. They thought about economics and business differently to us, and they outperformed us decade after decade after decade. And we didn't. We left absolutely everything under the Treasury banner, and frankly, there's an awful lot more to do out there, out around the country, and I'm looking forward to Richard. Well, I mean, we'll barely see him. He's going to be in Aberdeen, and he's going to be up visiting what's left of our refineries, what's left of our manufacturing industry. So it's an absolutely vital job, given the dire economics we're currently in. Alex from the BBC.
Nigel Farage there saying there'll be more jobs to come for other people, but it's worth noting lots of the party's MPs haven't got jobs there. Lee Anderson, Sarah Pochin, Andrew Rosendale and others. I mean, Lee Anderson would say he's the chief whip, but no actual spokesman role, and that's quite important, and that may come back to be an issue at some point in the future as Nigel Farage stops being a one-man band. Now, after he finished speaking, I spoke with Suella Braverman, the new spokesman for equalities, education and skills. And I asked why it was that all of those individuals on the so-called front bench, they all went to private school. How can they feel the pressures of those people who haven't been to private school and had to battle really for a better education in the state system? And here's what she told us.
I went to both a state school and a private school in the 80s and the 90s. It cost a fraction of what it does today, I would say. And I just say this about my parents. You know, they came to this country with nothing. They're working class people. They didn't themselves even go to university until they were in their 40s as mature students at the local polytechnic. And they sacrificed everything to give me a good education. They went without holidays. They drove a battered car. My parents, I had second-hand clothes. All these kinds of things. We were not posh people. We were not wealthy people. My parents sacrificed because they wanted to invest in my education. And as I said, I wouldn't be on that stage today were it not for the great sacrifice that they made and the amazing education that I benefited from.
OK, Suella Braverman there. I also asked her, by the way, what's it like working for your old junior in Robert Jenrick, and she said she hadn't thought of it that way because Robert Jenrick, of course, is now the Shadow Chancellor, which is also a slight challenge, I think, to the Deputy PM, or the Deputy Leader, I should say, Richard Tice. Anyway, this party is taking shape, no longer a one-man band and undo Nigel Farage. Other big jobs here, and we should be seeing more of them in coming weeks and months, and maybe a bit less of Nigel Farage.
Really interesting stuff, trying to sort of decentralise, professionalise, perhaps. We'll have to see how that goes. Nigel Farage has never, in the history of his parties, delegated as much as he has now. It's a new challenge for him. But,
well, it's wise, though. He can't do everything. Very wise indeed. Christopher Hope, thank you very much. He's GBNews' political editor. Yes, I also went to a state school and a private school, so I did both. I'm like Suella. My parents worked really hard.
Do you know what? I did exactly the same.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. Started off in a state school, moved to private. Eventually ended up on a scholarship in my private school, which was
hard, yeah.
Exactly. But I don't like this sort of nitpicking. You know, where you went to school, where you go to school when you're a child isn't particularly in your own control, and using it as an attack line against politicians. At all.
Yeah, it's silly. It doesn't make any sense because a lot of it doesn't mean that you started and you had loads of money and you were able to do that. It means, in my case, my parents worked really. They had nothing. Mine were like Suella Braverman's parents. They came here. They were very proud to be in the UK. They wanted to be everything. They assimilated to this environment, and they brought me up to assimilate in the environment. And they worked very, very hard, and eventually made a little bit of money as I got older, and were able to send me to a boarding school.
I think it's one of the things that I think gets me a bit down about this country is when we denigrate success.
Yeah.
No American politician would ever denigrate success.
Oh, never.
No, the American public like a winner.
Yeah.
I think
we like losers. If you're a loser, hey, come this way, it's fine. Well, oh, you poor thing, you're not a victim. Ah, get out, be gone with you, be gone with you.
And that's not to say that there's a direct allegory to be made there, but the idea that we should always sneer at people who've been successful, I think, is one of the reasons this country's become a lot poorer, relatively speaking, in the last couple of decades.
Of course. Well, look, as you know, there's been many, and this was yet another U-turn, but it was a wise U-turn, but they shouldn't have got in the position in the first place. This was by Labour, as they dropped plans to delay 30 council elections over legal concerns.
Well, election officials are warning they face an uphill struggle to be ready for May's local elections, and organisers say months of planning have been lost, while critics warn confidence in the process has been damaged.
Well, let's go to Cheltenham, where GBNews' national reporter Jack Carson is live for us now. So, Jack, what's the feeling amongst people there now that these elections are happening?
Well, certainly from everyone that we've spoken to, they're happy that they get a chance to vote in these May elections. Of course, this U-turn, latest U-turn coming after the government received new legal advice. That was following a legal challenge from Nigel Farage and Reform UK. A spokesperson for the local government department saying yesterday in a letter, saying this was about providing certainty to councils about their local elections, that was the most crucial thing, and that all elections would now go ahead in May 2026. 30 had opted to postpone their local elections. It's all due to the reform and reworking of how councils are going to work in this country. Big government plans to move, say, county councils and merge county councils and more local district or borough councils like we are here, have here in Cheltenham, which is the Cheltenham Borough Council, merge them together to provide all of the services so there was one place for residents. And while that transition is taking place, the government offered some of those councils to postpone their elections. Now, when the elections were postponed here in Cheltenham, which is the Cheltenham Borough Council, it's the only Lib Dem-run local council that opted to postpone their elections this year. They said that that was a right decision to make, saying that their 40 councillors were only elected in 2024 and that this was never about stopping democracy or an attempt to extend their term beyond 4 years like other councils. Many, they say, of their councillors would only be 2 years into a 4-year term, but unfortunately they're not going to have that luxury anymore. Like the other 29 councils on that list who opted to postpone, they will now have to work over the next few months at rapid pace, as we're hearing, to try and make sure that the logistics around those elections are sorted and that they can take place like many others across the country in May 2026. We've been speaking to people, getting their reaction to elections being called back on. Here's what they told us.
I think it's a great idea, and it shouldn't have gone in the way that it did in the first place. We're all entitled to vote. You shouldn't be able to stop people voting when it's due.
It does sound a bit of a confusion, doesn't it? It sounds like they're not really sure whether they can or whether they can't. Now they've changed their minds again, so who knows what they're trying to do.
I think they should never have been not on. So, yeah, I think they should be back on. I know it's costly, but it's, you need to have the election.
Everyone's glad in this town that we're going to get a chance to vote again, because Gloucester had the right to vote, but Cheltenham didn't, which doesn't seem fair.
Yes, as you can hear there from people, some confusion really as to why they were cancelled in the first place. Others saying, well, other councils in this local area here in the southwest were happy to have theirs, but others weren't. Of course, money is the other thing. These elections do cost money, but the local government department saying that they would offer £63 million to the 21 areas affected by these elections now being called back on. Originally, of course, 136 local elections taking place, 63 were eligible to be able to postpone. Only 30 opted for that option. But now, of course, they're now working at rapid pace to make sure that they can go ahead and people can have their say in the summer.
Well, Jack Carson, thanks indeed for being there on the ground and finding out what the views of real people are on this important topic.
Well, joining us now is the Associate Editor at The Telegraph, Gordon Rayner. Of course, The Telegraph were a major player in ensuring that these elections go ahead. This is kind of a victory, really, isn't it, for democracy and, of course, journalism as well.
Yeah, and it's a huge victory for the 4.6 million people who would not have had a chance to vote had it not been for Sir Keir Starmer and Steve Reid deciding to do this enormous about turn, which I think is probably the biggest one they've done so far, given that we had weeks and months of speculation about whether these elections would go ahead. We had councils, being thrown into chaos as a result. And now, because they've delayed it and then decided they are going to do it, these councils, as you were just saying there, have got less time than they would have had to organise them. The whole thing is a complete shambles, and it's an embarrassment to Labour, really, who are also having to pay the legal costs of reform, who were bringing this legal case, which would have been heard later this week.
It sort of flies in the face of the sort of stereotypical view of these parties, or at least the view that has been presented to the general public over the course of the last 18 months, that the Labour Party somehow are the grown-ups in the room, on top of the detail, mastering, crossing all the I's and dotting all the T's. They know what's going on. Meanwhile, that bloke Farage down in a pub hasn't got a clue. And yet the bloke in a pub seems to have done one over on the senior lawyer.
Yeah, I think what's extraordinary about this whole saga, to me anyway, is that back in 2021, when COVID was happening and the Tories were in power, Robert Jenrick, who obviously now is at Reform, was told by the most senior government lawyer, Sir James Eadie, the first Treasury Counsel, that postponing the elections twice would be illegal. Now, James Eadie is still in that job. So what I don't understand is whether Labour ever asked him for his advice on postponing these elections, which, as you know, many of which were being delayed for a second time, which was going to mean that some councillors were in post for 7 years without having to face re-election. Why did they not ask him? Presumably, he would have told them exactly the same thing he told Robert Jenrick during COVID, that you can't do this twice. And also, the problem I think ultimately they've come up against when they've looked at this now properly is that the Local Government Act 2000, which governs this, has provision for ministers to postpone elections. What they were doing, as you know, is they were allowing councils to decide for themselves whether to postpone the elections, which ultimately is illegal. And part of the Telegraph's campaign is to have that clause in that Local Government Act scrapped so that we go back to the old system where elections could only be postponed through an Act of Parliament.
Yeah, really. Well done to the Telegraph and, of course, Reform UK. Gordon Rayner, thank you very much. He's the Associate Editor at The Telegraph. Thank you.
Yeah, fascinating story. It's going to be really, really interesting to see if this information does leak out, whether or not Steve Reid or Keir Starmer actually bothered to ask, bothered to get that legal advice.
And you are right when you say that it's come from the party that said that they would be the integrity and all the stuff that, before the Tories were this and that. I mean, the Tories aren't scot-free either, because they also allowed cancellations of elections and said it was nothing to see here. Kevin Badenoch said, well, it's up to the councillors.
Well, she said constitutionally she didn't have the power to within the structure of the Conservative Party.
Yeah, but still, I think I would have pushed harder and done something. I'm sure she could have done something, but hey-ho.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Coming up on the show.
Yes, thousands of so-called city-killer asteroids are out there, and NASA admits that they're not fully prepared.
Oh, dear.
But after the break...
Yes, a crunch vote in Scotland on religious education in schools, with children potentially able to overrule their parents. But we'll ask, should schools be teaching this at all?
Absolutely not. I can answer that in one. Loads more of that to come. Stay with us. GBNews, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good afternoon, Britain, 29 minutes after 2 o'clock. Now, a bill is currently making its way through the Scottish Parliament to give pupils the ability to independently opt out of studying religious education.
Well, with critics arguing it can enhance cultural awareness and boost critical thinking, should teenagers be allowed to withdraw from this particular subject?
Well, joining us now is head teacher at LVS Ascot, Christine Knief. Christine, good to see you, Christine. I can remember I was devastated when they said that they would be taking religious education out of the curriculum, and I remember specifically saying, oh my God, people won't know the difference between wrong and right. And I was a child then. I studied religion and philosophy and theology, and I think it's essential. Even the 10 Commandments, they're not literally specific to a religion. They are just 10 rules in life. I thought it's very helpful to have some sort of religious education and learning.
I think it is, but I think it's the way you teach it as well. You know, because we know we have faith schools in this country, and that's great. I'm a Catholic, and I really do believe in the teachings. But I also think we need to approach it in a way that it's more philosophical. That's we talk about ethics and morals, and like what you just said, the 10 Commandments, and how we teach children about critical thinking, and actually, and challenging things as well. It's absolutely crucial. So I think there is an argument that yes, it should be in the curriculum, but it is how you teach it, and also do consult children, because I think children have a say in what they're taught and how they're taught it. It can't be a one-line teaching as such. It has to be broad to actually make sure that we have those things in place to allow them to make their own mind up about things and challenge things and have critical thinking.
I have to say, when I was, it was called religious studies, I think, when I was at school. And I learnt a lot about Diwali. I learnt a lot about Ramadan. I learnt a lot about lots of different... We didn't really touch on the Bible at all, it must be said. We did every religion around the world, apart from Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was at school, I remember we actually started off our RS lessons. We're talking about the beginning of the earth, you know, the creation.
Exactly.
And I can remember drawing these wonderful pictures, and it was great and it was lovely. But I think we need to study all religions, because the thing is, much of what we have in religion is quite generic. We kind of think the same things, and therefore we have to show how global we are and how we can bring that together to ensure that we have peace in our time, and also that we can think critically and make it out for ourselves as well, not just what we're taught in class.
Well, I agree with that, because I studied all the different religions as well. And we learned about Jackie Pullinger and the Walled City and Che Guevara and Gustav Gutierrez and all the people, Mother Teresa. So we learned about all these incredible humans on the planet. And I think it's dangerous to give that option to the children to decide whether they study it or not. Surely it should be the adults making sure that it is done, but it should be in the curriculum in a sort of set way where you learn everything.
I suppose it is what the curriculum actually is, because, for example, in my school, we don't have RS as that. We have philosophy. So therefore, we look at all the religions and we teach philosophy through that. And I think you need to look at the religions to be able to be a philosopher, to be able to make your own mind up about things and wonder how the world works. So I think it is a case of maybe it might be in schools where it might be a little bit more narrow. I don't know. And that maybe children do need to have the opinion about what they're taught. But also, you know, it's their world at the end of the day, but make sure that they're being given a broad and balanced philosophical curriculum that brings religions into it, because that's where the basis of it all starts.
Yeah, maybe that's the answer. It should be called philosophy, because I studied philosophy as well, so that was in there.
But I love all of it. There's a huge amount of culture that you get from this as well. Because I'm not a particularly religious person, but I loved that my school started with hymns every morning, and I know far too many hymns for my own good, but I think it gives you a grounding in the history of the country more than anything else.
It certainly does, but do you know what? I'm in South Asia right now, and I'm enjoying the culture here as well. So I think it is about us becoming global citizens, because surely that's the way ahead. That's how we should be thinking. Global citizens, know what's going on in the world and make the right choices in life, and there is a grounding within the curriculum that should be affordable to all children.
All right, Christine. Yeah, and I also think they shouldn't have a choice whether they study it either. I would actually make philosophy compulsory alongside English, maths.
Definitely philosophy. Definitely philosophy.
We'll call it philosophy. Yeah. Thank you, Christine. Christine Knife. She is the head teacher at LVS Ascot. Thank you.
Is this where I admit I dropped RS before GCSE?
What?
Yeah.
What? I'm like Oprah. What?
I had to make room for classical civilization. I was much more interested in learning about Jupiter than I was about Jesus. But, you know...
Well, they both begin with a J, at least.
I was trying to make the illusion, yeah.
Right, well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show, but first, your latest news headlines.
Very good afternoon. More on Tom's school timetable later this hour. First, though, the headlines. Nigel Farage has unveiled Reform UK's new top team, saying it's about preparing the party for government. Richard Tice becomes deputy leader. Robert Jenrick takes the economy brief. Zia Youssef handles home affairs. And Suella Braverman will lead on education.
I'm very pleased now to be part of a very productive and mission-led team, which is focused ultimately on serving the British people.
Election officials are warning they face an uphill struggle to be ready for May's local elections after the government scrapped plans to delay votes in around 30 council areas. Organisers say months of planning have been lost, while critics warn confidence in the process has been damaged. More than 50 years after being forced from their homes, a group of Chagos Islanders say they've begun a permanent return. 4 people landed on the remote archipelago defying a British exclusion zone. They say they plan to stay. Here, unemployment has climbed yet again, rising to near 5-year high. The Office for National Statistics suggests that 5.2% of the population were out of work between October and December last year. And tributes are pouring in for the US civil rights leader Jesse Jackson, who died at the age of 84. He worked alongside Martin Luther King Jr. during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Those are the latest headlines. A full roundup from the newsroom with Tatiana Sanchez at 2.
Thank you, Sam. Lots more coming up on today's show. I must read you this lovely message that somebody sent me. It said, and I hope he is watching, because he says, I watch GB News from Florida. Hello. Hello. It's Simon. Hello, Simon. He says, I watch GB News from Florida, being an expat since 1996. I enjoy your inclusive questioning of guests on GB News. I looked at your Wikipedia and was amazed to see your birth date. Oh, thank you, darling. Thank you so much. I just had to say that. Sorry.
Oh, no, of course. Of course. Well, I hope no one looks up my birth date. Now, lots more still to come. Yes, thousands of so-called city-killer asteroids are out there, and NASA admits we're not fully prepared.
Well, we'll give you more on that in just a moment. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. So dry with sunny spells for much of the UK, but it will still be feeling quite cool in the breeze, and that rain will be returning later on this evening. So this frontal system arriving tonight, but we do have this ridge of high pressure building across much of the UK through today, giving fine and settled conditions. Best of the sunshine will be across the north and parts of northern Scotland and northeastern UK, but it will be feeling a touch cool in that breeze, particularly down that northeastern coast. Elsewhere, fairly dry and plenty of sunny spells, but that sunshine will be turning a touch hazier and milkier the further southwest that you go. Temperatures 4 to 5 degrees and feeling cool in that breeze, and a touch milder the further south that we go, and particularly mild across the far southwest. That rain will start to push in later on, but ahead of that we have some dry and clear weather across most of Scotland, and Shetland and Orkney seeing some sleet and snow showers that could turn a bit more persistent later on, but much of Scotland staying dry and clear overnight. Winds picking up across Northern Ireland, but again, it'll be largely dry for most of the start of the evening. Again, most places staying dry, a touch cool, but Devon and Cornwall will already start to see that rain pushing in by the time we head into Tuesday evening. Now that rain will continue to spread northeastwards, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland as we head into the early hours of the morning, and that could be a touch of sleet and snow mixed into there over the higher ground of Northern Ireland and perhaps parts of Wales, but elsewhere largely falling as rain as we head in towards Wednesday morning. Cool again across the northeastern half of the country and a touch milder across the far southwest. As we head through Wednesday then, so that rain continues to move northeast, becoming a bit more persistent over parts of Northern Ireland and the southwest of Cornwall and pushing into Wales and perhaps London later on the afternoon. It could turn a touch snowy as we head later on through the evening, so do keep an eye on those warnings where you are. That's all for now, thanks.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M8 eastbound at the Kingston Bridge, a broken down vehicle is partially blocking the road, resulting in significant queues and slower journeys through the crossing. It's advisable to allocate extra time for travel and stay vigilant for unexpected lane changes as traffic squeezes past the obstruction. In railway news, the Elizabeth line is experiencing disruptions between Stratford in London and Shenfield, causing inconvenience for commuters. Additionally, Great Western Railway has reported operational disturbances on multiple routes, affecting punctuality. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up to 20 to 3. Now, thousands of so-called city-killer asteroids are passing close to Earth, and officials at NASA warn that current defences may not be enough to stop one on a collision course.
Scientists estimate around 15,000 medium-sized space rocks remain undiscovered and could pose a potential threat to the planet.
Well, joining us now is the astrophysicist at the University of Nottingham, Maggie Liu. Maggie, just how worried should we be?
Honestly, I don't think you should be very worried. We have hundreds of thousands of kilograms of space rock hitting the Earth all the time. But most of these are very minuscule and they burn up in our atmosphere. Now, we should be scared because we know that a massive asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs, but that was on the order of a kilometer or larger size asteroid. These kind of city killer asteroids are about 150 meters or larger in size, so they're significantly smaller, but they're not completely to be worried about, because the impact of such asteroid would be much larger than any nuclear bomb that we can currently create. So it would be devastating. And 50% of these, we don't know where they are.
Ooh. I see.
But we are in the process of finding these asteroids, particularly with Vera Rubin Observatory. This LSST survey is designed to scan the night sky to find everything that's moving and also track it. And over the course of the next 10 years, it will be able to find 80–90% of all these missing asteroids.
Wow. So when an asteroid hits, how is it that it killed the dinosaurs then? Does it give us some toxic gas, or it didn't blow up the Earth, did it? So the Earth is still here, it hit, and then the dinosaurs, you say it killed the dinosaurs. How did it do that? All of them, they all went.
Such a massive asteroid would have a massive impact on the Earth, creating a massive crater, explosion, for example. But we believe that the dinosaurs were wiped out due to the Ice Age, which was triggered by this massive impact.
It's the climate change that follows the impact more than the one impact that probably killed quite a few dinosaurs, but only in...
Yeah,
it was around Mexico, wasn't it?
Some of them would have fallen in the crater.
But I suppose whilst it is reassuring to know that these sort of asteroids aren't going to wipe out all of humanity...
Well, it might do. We don't know where they are. We don't know where they are.
But they're not a kilometre in diameter. Well, we don't know. These are smaller asteroids, which I guess means that they're harder to find. But this is what this project is about. But that's not reassuring if one of these smaller asteroids decides to land in your city. I mean, yes, the rest of humanity is fine, but you could be unlucky enough that this is the equivalent of a nuclear bomb going off, sort of, in London.
We expect many of these to have already occurred. Actually, the risk of something hitting the Earth is relatively low. It's something like 1 in 30,000. But most of the Earth is water. So in the past, if these hit, 70% of the Earth is water, it would have hit in the ocean and we wouldn't have detected it. We wouldn't have noticed.
You'd have to be really unlucky to actually hit a city.
Yeah, or if you're in a boat, then you have to be really unlucky for it to hit your boat. Can I just ask then, so do we know if there are other universes out there? Because I think people assume there are. I hear that there are. And if there are other universes, have we any estimation on as to how many there might be?
Other universes, I think it's really difficult to prove if there's another universe out there. Theoretically, it is possible, and it could be unlimited universes with kind of identical places with another version of you and me, for example. But these are all theoretical, and it's very difficult to prove if there are other universes out there.
God, another Tom Harwood. God, one's enough.
Well, if there are infinite universes, there would be infinite Tom Harwood. It is just staggering to think about, though. I mean, we're on the outer spiral arm of just one galaxy, and I don't know how many galaxies. We probably don't know how many galaxies there are within our universe, and how many solar systems there are within our galaxy. And just even within our solar system, I mean, it's just unfathomably huge and distant. And I mean, do you ever, as an astrophysicist, on a personal note, just sort of take a step back and think, my goodness me, we are a tiny speck of nothing in just the greatest expanse of empty, vast nothing?
I think about it all the time. I find it really sad that, over 100 years, we've barely left the solar system, and we know there are billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and then billions and trillions of galaxies out there. it's mind-blowing. Yeah.
It is, isn't it? It's just really unfathomable. Thank you very much, Maggie Liu. She's an astrophysicist at the University of Nottingham. I could actually talk to Maggie for a very, very long time about this. It's one of those where you just go, really, wow. You just want to know more and more and more.
You think the Earth's quite big, and then you realise it's so tiny.
No, it's
so
nothing.
tiny.
Right.
Well,
this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News coming up.
Anna Riley has been out in Scarborough enjoying the Pancake Day celebrations. Don't miss it.
But if you do want to escape this country, but not the universe or the Earth, here are some the forecasts for some European top destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, if you're heading away for half term, it's a little bit drier across the Mediterranean than it has been lately. Further wet weather, though, affecting more northwestern areas of Europe. The Canary Islands seeing the best, the warmest and the driest weather across Europe. Some wet weather pushing into France and Spain. Drier than it has been across parts of Italy and Greece, and that theme does continue in towards the end of the week and into the weekend as well. But once again, Tenerife seeing highs of 24 degrees.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's just coming up to 10 minutes to 3 o'clock.
Now, a very happy Shrove Tuesday, also known as Pancake Day. Whether it's the right way to flip or the perfect combination of toppings, Pancake Day is sure to bring its fair share of debate.
Yes, perhaps the most controversial topic we have ever explored here on GB News, yes. Shrove Tuesday. Well, joining us is our GB News reporter Anna Riley, live from Scarborough. Anna.
Good afternoon, Tom and Nana. It's been flipping marvellous here in Scarborough for Shrove Tuesday. Thousands of people have turned out to celebrate the event, which goes back centuries here in Scarborough. It dates back to the 1900s when the pancake bell was rung at midday. That was a signal for fishermen's wives to start preparing the pancakes, and then most workers and school children got the afternoon off to eat pancakes and also skip. You might be able to see behind us here, we're on Foreshore Road. There's lots of children and adults as well out skipping. Earlier on, after the pancake bell was rung, there was a grand competition that involved local businesses who dressed in fancy dress and then did a pancake obstacle course, jumping over lots of different things and flipping a pancake at the same time. It was Boys, the department store, that won that. And then after that, everybody came down to the beach to eat pancakes and also to skip. I spoke to Councillor George Jabor earlier. He's the chairman of North Yorkshire Council, and he had the honour of ringing the pancake bell at noon.
I have the honour of ringing the Pancake Day bell over there. It is a tremendous privilege to be taking part in this tradition. It's been going on since the 19th century, has been maintained by generation after generation. People come, as I mentioned, from the local community, from other parts of the county and from further afield to celebrate the tradition of this town and many other, on other occasions, other traditions across North Yorkshire.
So Pancake Day, a great draw for locals here, especially during half term, but also a great boost for tourism as well, bringing people in here. Tourism accounts for £580 million a year here in Scarborough. So great to see people out and about enjoying themselves on Shrove Tuesday.
Anna Riley, thank you very much. I love the hat as well. I want a hat. Although, unfortunately, it'd be a hat on top of a hat. It would be just too hot in here.
Oh, gosh.
On top of the wig.
Well, I don't know. I never know what to say when you bring up the wig. It's not something I'm socially conditioned for.
You can try it on if you want.
Oh, well, that is a GB News bonus feature for friends of GB News, if I ever heard one. Well, as we've come to the end of Good Afternoon Britain, but don't go anywhere because we've got Martin Daubney, but not Martin Daubney. Who's standing in for Martin Daubney? It's the one and only Charlie Peters.
Sure. Afternoon, team. How are you? Very well.
Very
all
good,
grand.
thank you, Charlie Peters.
Happy Pancake Day, Shrove Tuesday. I've already had pancakes for breakfast and lunch today because I had duck pancakes for lunch.
Oh, that's right.
Trying to make it all three. I might have some for supper as well. There's plenty more coming up on the show later today, more than just me talking about the meals I've had, going through all the latest in reform, and plenty more to come too. All that after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. For the rest of today, sunny spells will continue for much of the country, and down that northeasterly coast, winds will start to ease. But we do have a further frontal system arriving from the southwest that will push into parts of Devon and Cornwall through this evening.